The civil rights movement and its success inspired many other movements during and after its time. One example of this inspiration would be the women's movement, or what is also known as feminism. During World War II, most of the men who held highly skilled jobs were away fighting, so that meant women had to step in and take over in the workforce, doing anything from factory jobs to being seamstresses or even having managerial positions. From the 1940s, 19% of women were in the workforce, and through the next 2 decades that follows, it rose to almost half of the workforce being filled by women. Although women started getting involved with the workforce, women still faced prejudice in the jobs that they were given and how much they were paid compared to men. Most men would get the quote, better high end positions such as managers, technical workers, lawyers, and doctors. Women didn't get paid as much as men, and they also were often the quote, last hired, first fired. For example, when they got pregnant or married, they would be fired from their jobs. Throughout this era, women were symbolized by the War Department's poster of Rosie the Riveter, which encouraged women to work in military factories by producing ammunition and other military goods. With about 6 million women working during World War II, it proved to men that women could work just as hard and effectively as men. Another symbolic female during this time period was Betty Friedan, who coined the term "the problem that has no name" about the dissatisfaction women felt at home. Her book, The Divine Mystique, inspired women to be independent. These women took role after and during World War II, which led to a wave of feminism after the war ended because of their significance in a woman's life. However, the war ended and women were forced to go back home to return to their chores and daily lives of being wives and mothers. Although these women had only had a little taste of having a job and physically providing for their country, when they returned home, the want to be back at a job was a bigger necessity than it was previously. Feminism truly erupted when the baby boom began. After husbands returned and wives came home, many people wanted to start a family because they were confident that having children would bring a future of comfort and prosperity. Although women were no longer happy with their roles in life, they felt undervalued and depressed because during this time, women still only made up about 25% of the workforce, and it was still considered unladylike for women to be doing anything other than domestic jobs. And thus, the concept of feminism began to grow. The term feminism can be used to describe a political, cultural, or economic movement aimed at establishing equal rights and legal protection for women. And that is all women sought after: equality. It was a long battle for women to gain even the slightest bit of equality when the Equal Pay Act was passed in 1963. And although the United States has changed drastically over the years, most women today are still fighting to be seen as equals next to men.